Hello and welcome to Fuzzy Concepts. It's Adam McCarthy with me, Steve Brockhausen, and our special guest, Steve, Ruairi O'Hagan.
Ruairi O'Hagan. In
welcome.
Starship.
Well, lads, it's been it's a pleasure. Like the last time I was on this podcast was about 106 years ago.
It definitely
and I
was.
Played live on air when we were talking about pirates, wasn't it?
Pirate.
I think we were.
And I think Adam cracked a joke while I was drinking water, which resulted in me choking and nearly dying live on air. And the complete lack of concern by the two hosts of this podcast was rather worrying, considering that we've been friends for how long?
And you don't want to
20
know,
odd years.
It's coming up 18 years since we were first in college together.
And
I'd like to point out on legal advice, I did not crack a joke that made you choke on your water.
Yeah, you've never been that funny, Adam, have you?
No, that would never happen.
Yeah.
It's great to see you boys, actually, because I haven't seen you.
I know, it's been a long time.
Yeah, too long.
Too long.
This last year has been kind of mad. Not getting to see many people, but you're doing well. You're keeping well. You've moved house since we last saw you and everything.
Yeah, that was 4 years ago now, almost at this point. So, yeah,
You're out of the country now.
2 kids. It happens all so quickly. Like,
It's,
I live in a house, a 3-bedroom house in the country.
There you go. Well, that's a beautiful start. A wonderful start to to cheering people up. 3 old men feeling sad.
They should just be called old men rant about things at this point.
I was saying to Steve before we came on, I was like, I'm getting back spasms at the moment. So if you hear me go at any time, that's my back.
Do you find you're saying when you're getting in or out of a chair these days?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah. We're just waking up.
I literally say, fuck.
Yeah.
Every time I get up.
Yeah. Before you'd have to be like out for a week or something before you felt anything. I know you just have to like sleep slightly funny and you can't walk for about 3 hours after you get up.
And yeah, something new is cracking every different day. It's just, what's that?
Yeah.
Me? I don't know. I don't even care at this point.
My big worry now will be the first hangover after the lockdown ends when everybody's back in the pubs.
That'll be a worry, all right. That could be a 2 or 3 day at this point, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely.
You'd want to be taking the week off work if you're going up on the Friday, like, just to be safe.
Just to be safe.
They'll understand.
Yeah, I just go for a few. Yeah. I went down for 6 pints on Friday.
I won't be inside the pub, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's that first lockdown night out, post-lockdown night out going to be like? Because, I mean, like, I'd imagine it's going to be interesting because, like, I haven't been inside the pub in a year. I haven't had a pint of stout. I haven't had a pint of Beamish in a year now at this point. And drinking stout out of a can isn't the same thing. It doesn't the same feel. So what's that first night out going to be like after lockdown?
You'd like to think it'd be full of debauchery and God knows what. I have a feeling there'd be a lot of people queuing up to get into places.
Yeah. And people drunk at 4 in the afternoon falling all over the place.
The thing is, with us all like approaching 40 or in our 40s, in Steve's case, we just want a pub with a fire and no loud music.
That's it.
And a sleeping dog in front of the fire, if
at
possible.
an appropriate volume and not have to shout and go, ha, 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 while Beyonce plays in the background.
Yeah, just sit down and have a chat. That's it.
Long gone are the days now of Freak Scene and Sir Henry's and Club One.
Yeah, I was thinking of the Goat Broke Loose the other day. I tweeted about the Goat Broke Loose, which reminded me of college and all that kind of crack. And it was a video of Tom Brady emerging from the boat party where he could barely walk. And I tweeted that was like me going from like the Goat Broke Loose to Gorby's back in the day. But yeah,
that also reminds me of leaving the Go Broke Loose one night with MJ, our old college buddy,
MJ.
Tipperary lad, who did he get in a fight with the Royal Bank of Scotland?
He punched the Royal Bank of Scotland, yeah, because he thought it was having a go at you.
In fairness, the Royal Bank of Scotland had it coming.
It did.
Yeah.
It did. But he literally, he punched the door.
Yeah, he punched
the door. Because apparently it tried to start on me or something like that.
Well, yeah, good. MJ's the nicest man on the planet, as we all know.
Yeah,
exactly.
Then I think he did start on you, and then he wanted to.
Oh, he punched me then, yeah, and then
he was like, "Who hit you? I'll kill him." It was like, "It was you, you idiot."
What a guy.
Yeah. Maybe that's why he hit the bank.
That could be it. Will I go with the news?
Yeah, you may as well. You may as well get us
I will go
started.
with the news. So top story is probably something that's been all over the internet now for the last week or so. Although it's kind of their viralness is going down now. It's the woman at the centre of a foul-mouthed online rural parish council meeting has told Sky News that she's never seen anything like it. Jackie Weaver became a viral sensation after footage of her being heckled and shouted down by Hanforth parish councillors was shared online. Miss Weaver, who has extensive knowledge of council rules and regulations in her role with the Cheshire Association of Local Councils, was forced to kick Chairman Brian Tolliver off the call and placed him in a virtual waiting room. He had told her to stop talking and that she had no authority here. You have no authority here, Jackie Weaver, no authority at all. 2 other councillors, including Vice Chairman Aled Brewerton, were also removed. He had yelled to her to read the standing orders, while another councillor was heard mumbling "fuck off" under their breath. A clip of the 10th December meeting, which was put on Twitter on Thursday afternoon, had been viewed more than 3 million times by Friday. In an interview with Sky News, Miss Weaver said she had expected the meeting to be tense due to controversial issues leading up to it, but admitted, "I'd never seen anything like that." But she said she did not want an apology. "I don't think an apology would mean a great deal to me," she said. "I think I would like is just some kind of recognition that they did not do the right thing and that they could have done it differently." So there you go. I assume you've seen the video, lads.
Oh yeah, it's
probably the most
amazing.
famous Zoom video now.
I like your
It's
have
kind of
standing orders
usurped by the...
I love this. We're all on Zoom, so there's a bit of a delay. So we all talk at once. Then we stop.
I know.
Do we have standing orders for tonight? And has everybody read them and understood them?
I've read them, but I don't understand them.
Who was your man? There was an old fella sitting down on the couch, and a younger fella was jumping in, screaming, "You have a vice chairman here." Was he the vice chairman, or just your man's son?
The young fella is the vice chairman, and the old fella was his dad. I'm not sure his dad is even a councillor. His dad was just there with him.
That was
for something to do during
lockdown. Screaming at her.
I did like how he turned into Gollum.
Yeah.
At one stage. He's kicked her off. Kicked her off.
Your one is surely going to be knighted.
She will be. She's the Tory as well, so she definitely will be.
The worst, she's going to end up in panel quiz shows on the BBC.
Oh, constantly. QI is definitely in her future.
But possibly what I like to.
Yeah, the whole video, or that whole Zoom video now has been kind of usurped by the lawyer with the cat filter. Did you see that?
I don't even know how you can turn on cat filters on Zoom.
I might give it a go.
I really don't know. All I know turns. Yeah.
Like I'm literally trying to turn my video into a cat here, and I cannot do it.
Yeah.
Which is disappointing.
Yeah, because I was really looking forward to turning myself into a cat.
I also would have thought that the courts would have their own kind of like special. They wouldn't be using like a Zoom or a whatever, that they'd have kind of a more secure system set up for the courts that wouldn't have built-in cat filters.
No, I'm glad. Maybe that is the fact. Like, I can't do it here on like my free Zoom basic. Maybe it's the court one themselves have.
So they have the enhanced Zoom with the proper filters.
Maybe it's for the family court.
I can't find it.
Yeah, it might be for the family courts, for the kids, to make it less scary for the kids. That the lawyers and the judges are all different kind of animals talking to them over the camera.
Could be.
I don't know. It's mad.
That'll be bad for therapy in the future. You know, if they're asking. So, what did the giant cat say to you in the courtroom?
What was best though about your man, who's supposed to be the lawyer, was saying, "I'm not a cat."
I know, yeah. Just in case that they thought it was.
Just to clarify,
yeah. I had the vaccine yesterday or something, and it turned me into a cat.
The best part was the cat's just panicked eyes as well as looking frantically around trying to turn off the Zoom.
We'll move on to the next news story. This is from Canberra, Australia. A koala has been rescued after causing a 5-car pileup while trying to cross a 6-lane freeway in southern Australia. Police said the crash in heavy Monday morning traffic in the city of Adelaide caused some injuries, but no one required an ambulance. The animal's rescuer said she got out of her car to investigate what had caused the pileup. Nadia Tugwell, with her coat in hand, teamed up with a stranger clutching a blanket in a bid to capture the marsupial. A concrete highway divider had blocked the koala's crossing. The koala was absolutely not damaged in any way, Tugwell said. It was very active but very calm. Once the koala was in her trunk, Tugwell drove to a gas station to turn the animal over to wildlife rescuers. In the interim, the koala was able to climb from the trunk into her SUV's cabin. It decided to come to the front towards me, so I said, "Okay, you stay here and I'll get out." It started sitting for a while on the steering wheel, as if saying, let's go for a drive. And that's when I started taking photos. Tugwell said she'd learned from past experience how to calm koalas by covering their eyes. She lives near eucalyptus forests outside Adelaide and has twice called animal handlers to rescue koalas injured in fights with other koalas. I like how that story went from a 5-car pile-up to just talking about the koala.
Yeah. Rescuing the koalas. The people were.
No idea, like 4 dead in 5-car pile-up.
Yeah.
I like that they really clarified and really hammered home that the fact that koala wasn't injured.
Yeah.
Like, 'cause
Which
that's
is the
everyone's
important
first
thing.
thought. Never mind the people in the 6 cars involved in the pile-up. Nobody cared about them. Everyone was like, was the koala okay?
Yeah. Poor old koalas. Everyone got to kind of love koalas.
That's all I was thinking.
Seems like about 40,000 years ago that Australia was on fire early last year because of everything that happened.
That was literally a year ago,
Yeah.
which is the scary, but it does feel like about 5 years ago.
Yeah. It's mad.
Everything feels like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Everything from before March last year feels like 5 years ago. Everything
Yeah.
from March on is just like it's been one massive COVID blur, and everything from like January to March was like 1 billion and 5 years ago. I can't remember. Like it's mental.
Normality. Ugh. We'll move on to the next thing. I want to find out, lads, if you'd ever try this.
All right.
So this week we've seen a lot of food combinations that we never expected, including baked beans on Weetabix. But if you haven't seen enough yet and you can cope with some more, then let us direct you to a TikTok video about shreddies that's caused a bit of a stir. The cereal fanatics behind London's popular serial killer cafe, Alan and Gary Keary, have been sharing videos of their own unique cereal creations, and one has garnered a lot of attention. In a clip, they can be seen pouring frosted shreddies into a bowl, but instead of adding milk to the mix, they begin pouring orange juice over the top. A voiceover says, okay, TikTok, we all know that shreddy cereal tastes better with orange juice on top of it, but if you add cream to it, it takes it to an awesome level of tasty. Don't believe me? Just duet this and tell me this ain't the shit. As this is said, whipped cream is squirted over the top of the cereal and juice, and the whole thing is branded a tasty dessert. One person replied, the grannies didn't slave away for you to put orange juice on it. Another said, this is a war crime and I'm contacting Geneva. And another person said, please say this is a joke.
I would give that a go because I like all of those things separately. Like shreddies are class. Orange juice is class.
It's frosted shreddies even.
Frosted shreddies even better because you can't do it enough sugar in your diet. And then like cream is class. So putting all those things together sounds like a no-brainer. I would try that if it was in front of me right here, right now.
What I'm thinking is some sort of oaty, wheaty super split.
Yeah. Yeah. It might be.
Yeah, you could actually. Do you know what? We could take this a step further and like get a like shredded wheat as opposed to shreddies, and stick popsicle sticks in the bottom of the shredded wheat.
There you go.
Douse them in orange juice, like soak them in orange juice, then put the cream on top, and then eat them like nice lot.
Breakfast on the go.
Is it a nice lol if it's? That's something they haven't done before. Is put wheat into ice creams.
No.
I think you're onto something, Rory.
Yeah.
We should give it a go. Then you could freeze them. You could put you could put ice cream into the shredded wheat, freeze them, soak them in oranges, then top them. I'm thinking about this way too much.
Yeah.
We may need to cut. Maybe we need to cut this out of the podcast for copyright reasons. If we're going to start developing this.
Yeah, we hold all the copyrights to our frozen shredded wheat and orange juice.
New line of orange icicles. We'll know where they got the idea.
We will make millions.
It just reminds me of one time in college. I think you were there, Rory, and I think Steve was definitely there in the canteen, and I think Steve gave me €1 to eat a dairy milk bar covered in curry.
Was it right? Was it hot curry or was it just like leftover curry?
That crappy curry they used to have in the canteen, I'd imagine.
It was the leftover crappy curry they gave. I think it was like you get chips and curry for 50p.
No, those are the days, and those chips were never cooked properly. But
No.
But did it melt the chocolate? Is what I'm getting at.
No, it kind of. From what I remember, because I remember I took one bite and it wasn't too bad, and then the longer is my mouth, the worse it was. It didn't melt it. It just kind of made the top of the chocolate very kind of
stodgy,
oily or something. And yeah, I didn't last long. That's all I can say is the.
But you weren't the €1.
I don't even think you gave me the €1, Steve.
Classic, Steve.
I'm sure I lost in whatever that game we used to play in the canteen.
Which one was that? Pass the Pigs?
Oh, Porky Pig. No, not Porky
Pass
Pig.
the Pigs.
Pass the Pigs.
Yeah. Yeah.
The greatest game of all time.
Yeah, they have a big garden version of that now these days with 2 giant inflatable pigs. You know, for
Do they?
parties. Yeah.
That's definitely worth getting. Because you could play that while social distancing.
You could.
Hope for a double
down
snowflake.
after every turn, though.
Go down to Turner's Cross Stadium and just have a giant Pass the Pigs tournament.
You could have 4 players in a stand each.
We'll move on to actually this story now I didn't want to go into because it actually gets really disturbing. But we'll go for the start of it. The bodybuilder who married his sex doll now wants several other wives after his first one broke. Yuri Toluchko from Kazakhstan was surrounded by loved ones when he tied the knot with Margot the plastic woman. Tragically, just weeks into their happily ever after, Margot broke. The unfortunate incident has led Yuri to double down on his lifestyle choices and pursue more sex dolls. Yuri said, I don't want Margot to break down again, and that means I have to unload her. I decided that I could have several wives. This tradition exists in some Eastern cultures. I'm currently considering 2 options. I got acquainted online with another sex doll. How the hell? I even decided to fly to her to meet her. She lives in Moscow, but they didn't let me out of the airport because of the quarantine. Yuri also has other ventures on his mind. He is keen to sexually experiment with a big chicken, albeit not a live one. He continued, it will be such a sex toy. He will have a vagina and a dick, and I can't wait for her. And lads, I'm going to have to stop it there because it just gets way more disturbing after that.
It's weird.
And then it goes into detail about the chicken, and I'm just,
Thanks for that, Anna, yeah. That sounds like a sequel to Lars and the Real Girl.
Yeah, just way more disturbing.
Yeah, and not as cutesy and folksy unless, was it Ryan Reynolds? Who's in that? Was it
Ryan Gosling.
Ryan Gosling.
Who still manages to get mentioned every podcast, even when we don't mean it now.
Well, Ryan Gosling is awesome.
Yeah. So, so when I got to the chicken bit, I was like, okay. And then the rest of the story just got way too much into him rubbing meat all over himself and stuff. So, no thanks.
Yeah. Oh, well.
So that's the news. I can't think of anything much else that's been happening.
Whenever you talk to people these days and say, do you have any news? And you're like, no.
I'm sitting at home. That's all I do.
I don't. Any plans for the weekend? Yeah, the same thing I did all week. Sit in and watch Netflix.
Yeah.
Well, lads, at least you're not single. That's all I can say because it's a living hell.
What about homeschooling? How's that going for you?
Sorry, Steve?
How's the homeschooling going for you?
Yeah, she's teaching me a lot. But yeah, it's hard going. It's hard to keep a 5-year-old focused on schoolwork when they're sat at home and there's like Netflix here and toys there. It's hard doing but have to do what we were doing colors in Irish this week, and we were learning all about the letter L. And what else did we do? We made a polar bear out of newspaper, and yeah, it's exciting stuff.
Yeah, you're learning too. You're learning as you go too. About the letter L.
But it's also proven to me whatever teachers being paid, it's certainly not near enough. I only have 1 child to teach at home, and they have 30 in a class, up to 30 in a class. So whatever teacher's getting paid, they deserve every penny of it. They're fantastic. They're amazing.
Myself
people.
and Adam used to coach young fellas for an hour a week, and we were like, nah, there's no way I could teach these lads for 5 hours a day. Yeah, unbelievable.
It's hard to keep their focus on any one thing for more than 2 or 3 minutes.
That must be all the teachers are doing all day, is trying to get one person to focus and then move to the next person.
Those poor teachers.
Yes, they definitely deserve
way
more money. All of them, all the way up. Because I'm thinking about when we were teenagers and in school, dealing with 30 teenage boys,
Yeah, good fun, I'd say, for teachers, yeah. Along with what they had to deal with when we were in college.
Yeah. That's even when we should have known better.
Well, on the rare time I turned up for college.
Yeah.
We did live so.
I turned up, but I didn't go to class.
I lived the closest to the college, and I was always the latest, and I was always like the one who was there the least.
And yet you're the one who's probably the most successful in radio out of all of us.
It's just a pure fluke, man.
So game shows.
Game shows.
We're going back to our youth again. This is a very kind of a very nostalgic episode, I think.
Yeah, it is. And the game shows we grew up with, and there was a lot of them because that's all that used to be on the TV when you had about 3 channels. On
Exactly.
the weekend, that's all you got was game shows. So
Saturday evening, especially, was just game shows.
When you think of Saturday evening in the early 90s, what's the first game show that comes to your head?
Gladiators.
yeah.
And that's not even properly a game show.
No.
That was more an athletic prowess competition, wasn't it?
It was really, yeah. To be fair.
Yeah.
And also You Bet.
You Bet was great, yeah. I went from
Blankety Blank and Big Break were the two that immediately came to my head.
Oh, Big Break, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to be snookering you tonight, which was great. And it's is it just me or is it very hard to find repeats of that on Dave or whatever? Or am I just imagining that?
It's Jim Davidson, I think.
I
They don't like to repeat Jim Davidson too much.
Heavily censored out of it. Which is tough when he's the host.
Did you miss? But yeah, I mean, like the best part of that was John Virgo's trick shots.
Yeah.
He always, very good. I'd love to know how many takes he took because it made they were always really, really good. To be fair,
John Virgo's a consummate pro. He just needed one take.
He just needed the one.
Yeah, sometimes not even one take. It just happened automatically.
Yeah. It was always great when they'd have like 2 like world champion snooker players and then a guy that barely gets past the second round and you're like, oh, for fuck's sake, we got stuck with him.
No, yeah. One guy's Ronnie O'Sullivan, the other guy's Stephen Hendry, and then someone else is like some fella from Malta or something.
Yeah. Guy from Malta scores 2.
Run around the table.
So yes, and the Generation game was Saturday night as well, I think, wasn't it?
Well, yeah. And they had the weird conveyor belt of prizes.
In fairness, right, to ITV and BBC around that era, they smashed it out of the park with game shows like that. I mean, like Saturday night was kind of like game show night, and just the way they've obviously struck a chord with us because I mean, like obviously that was our age. Again, lack of channels, it's all we could watch. But like the way they did them, the way they made them, the way they just grabbed your attention, even for like subjects you like people might not be interested in, like snooker. Like people say, "Oh, I don't like snooker, but I don't like but I enjoy Big Breaks." You know, that kind of way.
Yeah, exactly. I think, but that was it. It was a captive audience. You know, there wasn't that many channels, so you had like probably about 8 to 10 million people tuning in.
Yeah, mad amount of people they used to watch it. You think of like Catchphrase? There's another one they used to be on.
Catchphrase was an earlier Saturday thing. That was like when you came in from town. Like whatever you bought from Rory at Hills.
Yeah, around dinner time.
For me and Hills.
Yeah. And was Blind Date on a Friday or a Saturday?
That was a Saturday as well, I think.
Did they have anything else on Saturdays other than game shows?
Was there ever any murderers on Blind Date, Steve?
There's no murderers on Blind. Well, not on the English version, but absolutely on the American version.
I'm very surprised at that because some of them were definitely on a couple of lists, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. But it was one of the greatest things about Blind Date too was when like the wall would come back and you'd see the look on one or the other's face and they were just like so disappointed with their decision because they'd have seen the other 2 already. They'd be like, oh, jeez.
Yeah, actually, on a slight tangent to that, I watched The Office Christmas special over Christmas, funnily enough, and they do the Blind Date segment in that when Ricky Gervais comes in dressed as Austin Powers.
Yeah.
And it's got the guy from the mortgage ads and it's got Bubble from...
Howard from the Halifax ads.
Yeah.
Bubble from Big Brother, yeah.
Bubble from Big Brother, like, you know. But yeah, I was reading actually recently, funny enough, about Blind Date and about Cilla Black herself, who apparently wasn't very liked and wasn't a particularly nice person off camera. She is
notoriously the most hated celebrity on British Airways.
Yeah.
Among the stewards and stewardesses, apparently she would just scream at them for no reason and just be awful to them. And it's lucky that we can say this now because she's dead, like, so apparently she was an awful person altogether.
Her and Dale
completely completely entitled and believed in her own genius.
Yeah.
When other people used to write her songs for her, and she just did Blind Date and Surprise. Oh, surprise, surprise.
Surprise, surprise, surprise.
Which will always stick in my head because my dad always used to sing along to the tune Surprise, Surprise with dog shit in your eyes.
That would make you remember it, all right.
Yeah.
Which would be quite surprising if you did get dog shit in your eyes, to be fair.
That would be painful, I'd imagine.
It would be quite painful. Myself and Steve were looking at some You Bet episodes over the week.
You Bet was a crazy one. Do you remember You Bet at all?
Vaguely I remember You Bet.
In the 80s, it was Brucey used to do it, and then I think it was Matthew Kelly took over. But it was mad. You'd have three celebrities. Sometimes they did have big enough names on it, but usually not. And they'd all champion some guy trying some ridiculous record, and the audience would vote, and depending how many the audience voted for, you'd win that points if he got it or not. And there was forfeits if your guy didn't achieve it, and some of them were kind of nuts. The
one we watched was like some sort of off-road vehicle was going up on some stilts with the dinner table on the back of it. And the guy had to go over the stilts and not spill any of the wine or the soup on the table.
Yeah, while driving up over this platform in 3 minutes. It was riveting TV, I have to say. And then the guy was guessing all the Grand National horses where they finished in the race.
Yeah.
And then you had a guy on a glider who was trying to burst balloons doing a loop-de-loop, which didn't seem dangerous at all. There's no way health and safety would have allowed that.
Health and safety was a bit lacking back in those days, I'd say.
The glider had to be about 5 feet off the ground to burst the balloons at speed. It's like, this can't end well. Yeah, it was a crazy show. I remember there was one that I can vaguely remember of a guy that was like had a memory, and they had like him sitting on a tennis chair with like hundreds of tennis balls out in front of him, and they blindfolded him and took away like 5 tennis balls, and he had to figure out where the 5 were taken away from, or they added 5 or something. I think they added 5, and he picked out the 5 they'd added. They had it was crazy. It was like those mental things or those physical challenges. And they had a guy on a BMX bike, didn't they, in that one we saw as well? With like 2 minutes to go over like a load of like miniature horse riding kind of jumps in 2 minutes. But at the start, they're asking him about, you've been a mountain biker, you're a mountain biker and you're good at the jumps. How long have you been mountain biking? He said, just under about 2 years. He said, he's not what you'd call an expert, I'd say, at that stage. He's only been doing it for about 2 years. And they have him trying to break world records. And he didn't. And you love that.
It reminds me of, there was a show that might have been just a little bit before my time, but I vaguely remember being on the news. And it was the Late Late Breakfast Show with Noel Edmonds. And it was kind of a bit like You Bet, but even 100 times more dangerous. Someone actually died when they were making it. They bet him that he could do bungee jumping, and they didn't apply it properly, and he died. And then there was another one. So there had been concern that the stunts on the show were too dangerous.
Rightly so.
Indeed, the BBC was twice threatened with legal action by the Health and Safety Executive to stop planned stunts, such as plucking a member of the public from an exploding chimney by helicopter. And on the 10th of September 1983, stunt driver Richard Smith fractured his pelvis and injured his head, neck and back after crashing at 225 kilometers an hour during one such live stunt, an attempt to leap more than 230 feet in a car. That one I've seen. You put it on YouTube, and weirdly enough, John Peel is the roving reporter on it. He's standing in the crowd, and the man goes to do the jump, and the car literally lands about a meter away from the crowd.
Ah, well.
It was that's just what like, you want when you watch.
It was literally like Health and Safety was like, "Nah, should be grand. Sure, let him jump."
Yeah. You remember Challenge Annika? Challenge Annika was the same. I mean, she'd show up. She'd have 72 hours to turn a waste dump into like a kid's playground. No planning permission. Nothing going on the tender. The playground would probably fall apart after about 3 days.
Was Challenge Annika the one with the helicopter as well, was it?
Yeah, she come in, she had like 72 hours to get people to do favours for free and get builders to make something for free in 72 hours. They'd be building like youth centres and things like that. No planning permission from the council or anything. We'll just build a community centre. why not? Like, and apparently some of them, most of them stood the test of time. But a few.
I don't know.
They were not.
What you didn't see after they stopped recording was just them pulling down the youth centre again.
Yeah, probably. Some of them weren't up to code at all.
It was probably like the town at the end of Blazing Saddles. It's just all like fronts, like, you know, to make it look like it's real, like, you know. And then it's just like gets torn down at the end of it. But
so Bullseye was another kind of sports-based quiz show. Wow. That was on a Sunday evening.
That's probably the pinnacle of like 80s and 90s game shows, really, isn't it?
It was.
It's the one I think everyone remembers the best, I would say.
Yeah.
But like we all love darts, obviously, like, you know what I mean? But like from a game show perspective, it's got everything. It's got the most charismatic host you will ever see in your entire life. It's got darts. It's got, like, you know, these larger than life darts players. It's got the worst prizes you'll ever see in your entire life. Tiny payouts. It's got 80s mullets. It's got 90s terrible fashion. It has everything you want in a half an hour of entertainment.
I know, and even the studio audience looked like they were bussed in from an old folks' home or something.
They certainly do.
The money they were paying for was so tiny, and good old Jim Bowen was attempting his best anyway to keep it going.
Jim was the greatest because these guys who'd come up, they're obviously like just like guys from like local pubs and clubs and stuff like, and they seem to have like very limited social skills, and all of a sudden they're in front of like these massive bright lights, camera in their face, 200 or 300 people in the crowd, and you've got Jim Bowen asking them questions about what they do. It was the 80s in the north of England. They were by and large unemployed, like, you know what I mean?
Very much unemployed.
So
but he never judged them because of that, though. That's what I liked about Jim Bowen. He never judged them.
Absolutely brilliant, and he was very good at just that natural patter, and that's just that like natural warmth that can't be faked. I mean, like, you can't fake genuine warmth that Jim had, and he had that. And when he was dealing with people who were very, very shy and stuff like that, he was able to like get a smile out of them and put them at ease, and that's a very, very rare skill to have.
So Jim Bowen really was great. His jokes were appalling, though, has to be said.
That was part of the charm, though.
It was part of the charm, to be fair.
Yeah.
Even the audience took going at his jokes.
And I was with the BFH joke at the just before the first ad break. BFH, that's your bus fare home.
Bus fare home, and every week. But that's why people loved it, though. It's like a nice warm blanket. The same jokes every week.
It was funny then watching him in that episode of Phoenix Nights that he was in, because he just didn't look like Jim Bowen. It was weird. He had, I don't know what it was.
Some weird wig on, didn't he? I think.
Yeah, it was the toupee was just like, it was abysmal, and like he still had that charm and wit, like, obviously, but it just didn't seem like Jim Bowen.
Do you think that was kind of a little payback for Peter Kay probably getting so popular off his Bullseye bit in stand-up comedy, which is very good, to be fair to him.
You remember?
That bit's fantastic.
The first series of Bullseye, though, before they brought in, was it Tony Green they brought in to help with the adding up of the scores, when Jim Bowen was trying to add the scores, and he was going up to the board and moving the darts and checking, and it was taking him way too long.
Pulling the darts out by the side. Wrecking the darts as
you scored 21.
He just couldn't do the math.
He's taking about 5 minutes to add up what was scored.
Yeah, that's like we
well,
said.
If he was scoring our games, it wouldn't take him that long.
Yeah.
No, 3.
You scored nouts.
So what that first series did is it set up the other series when they go to the commercial break, and he'd say, it'll take me the length of the commercial break to count this out. This like 33 quid or something that the last had won.
33 quid.
It was believable.
And I always did like that he had the money in his back pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah. Taxman.
It was his own personal money that he was giving you.
It was. Most quizzes you never see the money that they're given, but in Bullseye, it's there with the tankard.
The Bendy Bullies and the tankards, and Jim's wad of fucking fivers coming out of his pocket, like, you know.
Brilliant.
I actually think Jim Bowen used to go to the petrol station before the recording, and he used to get his money turned into fivers. So myself and Steve, back in the days when we used to live together, not like that, in Kent Road, we spent a lot of time watching repeats of Bullseye on Challenge.
Yeah.
Challenge, probably definitely one of the best channels out there.
Very good. Very,
And
very.
it was like constantly, like it used to be on like midnight, wasn't it?
Yeah, it would be on midnight and they'd have loads of
It'd be about 6 episodes in a row or something.
Yeah. And my God, some of the prizes were awful. And then they wouldn't gamble them either, like, because the prizes...
Gamble! Gamble!
Like some of the stuff, there was like, a tease made.
You've got this
one of
trouser
those
press.
One of those big dressers that you get in your grandmother's kitchen. With all the drawers and the little kind of glass cabinets for the good china and the good glasses.
The good
I watched an episode.
And you've got the stereo cassettes.
Yeah, one of the episodes the other day, and it was a decent price for time. It was a video cassette recorder, and they were talking about how you could record 7 different programs from 7 different channels across 7 days. So
time to be alive. There wasn't even 7 channels back then, like.
There wasn't.
I think it's like you could record 1 show a day across 7 days.
There's nothing better though when you just want that kind of like comfort blanket of a show to watch in the evening. It's been a long day, it's cold, it's windy. You just want something that'll make you feel good, and you're like, Bullseye. Bullseye never fails to put a smile on your face. Ever.
That's it.
Small tweet.
Yeah, you don't want something that's going to challenge you. You just want to enjoy it.
And probably the only game show that...
And it always seemed like if... That ever what?
Gave away a caravan as a star prize.
Constantly gave away caravans.
Caravans and speedboats, and
especially if they were living in like Doncaster or something like that.
Power block in Birmingham and a speedboat for the 2 lads.
Power bomb. I know, and the lads are going, all right, yeah, thanks very much.
But you know, like, as you're saying, it's like 2 buddies from a pub or something like that.
Yeah.
And if they did win a car, who gets the car?
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Or do they just sell it off?
They probably just sell it off. Or who gets the boat or the caravan? The 2 families go caravanning together in the tiny little caravan bill.
I think I remember reading an interview with Jim Bowen, and he said that there was always like the cash alternative was available as well. Like, so I mean, like, what are you going to do with like 2 fellas with a speedboat, like living in the Midlands, like, you know what I mean? So I think they could take the cash prize, which I don't think was quite the same value as the prize that they were offering.
Yeah.
Do you remember the episode?
So Jim was making clear profit there.
And it was the 2 lads won it, and it was like a shopping spree for the family is what they'd won. And they had the weird models out in clothes and things. It was one of the most random prizes they'd ever had on Bullseye.
Now I'm starting to think if people always took the cash prize, was the caravan that they wheeled out just the same caravan every time?
Probably.
They never actually got rid of it.
Yeah.
I kept it backstage.
I think they probably had like 4 prizes they used to give out, and depending whether you won or not, they'd wheel out something.
Yeah.
The lads
also, do you know what was my favorite as well was when people didn't win the star prize, the sad Bullseye theme in the minor key. I have been looking to find like that on YouTube somewhere or anywhere, and I can't find like the You've Lost music anywhere.
Yeah, poor.
It was very. I think it was like in a minor key and slower, which is always the sign of musical.
Did Bully come out and shake his head, or am I imagining that?
He did. He definitely did. Or he put his hand over his head like that. That was it.
Yeah, and he used to walk with his book for the spelling.
If he was spelling,
Jim would do that.
Yeah. Where the spellings used to be ridiculous. That was stated. Yeah.
Spell bus stop.
Yeah.
BUSSTOP.
John walked down to the shop and got whatever. Spell shop.
For £14.
And so there was a story a few years ago about Bullseye that someone was watching the repeat on Challenge, I think.
Yeah.
This was like years later after what happened, and they recognized a guy who was wanted for murders. And he ended up being caught because of that person watching Bullseye on Challenge years later.
It was interesting because he recognized him from like police sketches and stuff, wasn't it? He had like the mullet and
curly mullet.
It was the inspector on the case, or an inspector on a case, or something like that, and he saw it and he was like, "Wait a second."
Yeah, he was a guy by the name of John Cooper, and he killed a brother and sister in 1985, and then 4 years later he was on Bullseye, I have it up here. And 2 months after being on Bullseye, he killed 2 more people, which was Peter and Gwenda Dixon. And it was that murder that they had the sketch from.
He didn't win a speedboat to escape, did he?
Yeah, speedboat to get out of there.
He managed to find a canal or a fjord somewhere and just...
Or an inlet. There's always an inlet.
But he was only arrested in 2009.
That's crazy.
You know, and they were able to use DNA evidence then to trace him back. But that's how they caught him, was the sketch. Because whatever way the sketch was drawn, he took a very similar pose in one part of
Yeah.
When he was throwing the darts or something, it was crazy.
Yeah.
So there you go. I mean, like, that's it. Like, watching Bullseye on Challenge can actually, you know, it can you know, solve cases.
You're wanted for murder, but the draw Bullseye, like, you know.
I know.
I'm going to risk.
No, you really want your 12 pounds in a microwave oven.
The microwave oven. Are we all in agreement though that Bullseye is the greatest game show from the 80s and 90s, or does anyone have one that they prefer?
No, I think it's definitely the best. There's other ones that were great, like Blockbusters used to be a lot of fun because it was kind of like it was always teenagers on Blockbusters, wasn't it? They seemed to be like 18-year-olds.
Yeah.
I
always thought it was very unfair though, having 2-on-1.
2-on-1, yeah. And they only had to get one extra question right. It wasn't like the, you know. Yeah, it was a strange one.
And it was never good after Bob Holness left.
No,
it wasn't. No, Bob Holness was great as well. He was another one of the greats.
Yeah,
he was. Of course, famously, he was a James Bond at one stage.
Yeah, was he the first James
on the radio? I'm not sure if he was the first. That might be a myth, but he definitely was a James Bond on one of the radio recordings of it.
Royale in South Africa or something.
Something like that, yeah. It's probably something he didn't want to talk about too much, you know, doing Casino Royale in apartheid South Africa.
No.
But after Bob Holness, there was Michael Aspel did it for a while, and then Lisa Tarbuck did it for like 3 episodes when it came back in Sky for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
The magic was gone.
It was.
Actually, speaking of shows that come back, Bullseye's return with Dave Spikey was just
didn't work.
See, the problem there was that it was ironic.
Yeah.
And that's one thing you could say about Bone, was that he was never ironic.
No, he was authentic, yeah. And they still had the same crappy prizes that you get in the 80s and 90s. It just fell flat. No. He didn't have the same charm or wit or warmth. Well, again, that's going to be impossible because Jim's the master of that. But like that, the comeback was just so flat.
Bad.
It was just when people are looking at it as a joke as opposed to an actual quiz. That's it. Like, you know, people aren't going to take it seriously. And I remember I watched a couple of episodes and it wasn't for me.
See, another show that came back that didn't really work out was one of Adam's favourites on the first run with Going for Gold. They rebooted that once, but it was all British people.
That's no good. And it can never come back now because of Brexit.
Yeah.
That was half the fun of Going for Gold. It was like the European Union.
Yeah, it was like, lads, look, we're all the same in Europe. It was pretty much propaganda for the EU.
It was. They even had a giant gold coin with Europe on it. It was like a precursor to the euro.
Yeah, let's get used to this euro coin now.
And of course, probably one of the best trivia about Going for Gold was, and I'm sure everyone knows this, but who wrote the theme tune to Going for Gold?
It was Hans Zimmer, wasn't it?
Hans Zimmer. The man who did, what did he do? The Batman soundtracks?
Batman's and the Pirates of the Caribbean?
Pirates of the Caribbean, yeah.
You know,
but he made a good bit of money off Going for Gold.
Yeah, proudest work, I'd say.
I think it's his best work.
Yeah.
It's his best work for me.
Can you sing it for us, Adam?
What is it?
I could.
But he might be
Hold on, I have to think of the words now. So even some of the words didn't make sense. I'm sure that they sang it in different languages for other things.
But like the Champions League song?
Yeah. The heat is on. The time is right. It's time for you to play the game. I'm gone. And it ended with going for gold.
Yeah, that's the only part I can remember.
Yeah.
I'd always thought it was very unfair that they had Henry Kelly hosting it as well.
Yeah.
Because he spoke quite quickly in an Irish accent. Yeah. I mean, if you're from Luxembourg, you're going to be screwed, like.
Yeah.
What is this? Oh.
They did. Yeah. What a show. It was a great show. I don't know. What did they win?
It was one of those rare ones. It was a lunchtime quiz.
Lunchtime quiz, yeah.
So you could only, like, if you're a kid, you could only really watch it if you're off sick from school.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you'd have Going for Gold, and then you'd have Sons and Daughters on after it. You just have to turn it off.
Both sons and daughters.
Does the Crystal Maze count as a game show?
I think so.
I think you like the classic version, definitely.
Yeah. But I think it's one of the few quizzes where they changed hosts and it wasn't, it didn't immediately turn terrible.
Yeah.
Your man Ed Through the Pole wasn't too bad.
No,
he was no Richard O'Brien, but he was okay. Like,
and Richard Ayoade wasn't terrible in the reboot, but I thought again the reboot kind of fell a little bit flat. But Richard O'Brien was the king. He just had like this "I don't care" attitude and this mischievous kind of divilment kind of to him, and he just seemed to enjoy. Like he seemed to really enjoy hosting the show, and that really came across.
That really was. I think the best thing about Crystal Maze though is when you were younger, it just seemed like this amazing place, like even though it's probably just a warehouse in an industrial park, but it was like especially when they were going between the zones for the ad break, that was amazing. Like you were like going up ladders and going across rope bridges and things.
A contestant on it wrote a very in-depth article about his experience on it. It was filmed over 2 days. Like there were so many cuts and breaks to the action because we think it's all seamless, but like you'd go into a room, cut, cameras would go in, reposition, do the next, and who am I talking about, like shots and stuff like that, like, but like it makes sense now when you think about it, but like think about it then, like you just want it all to be like this one thing, but like it took 2 days. This guy got locked in. He ended up going back to a cabin to watch like old VHS as well. The rest of them played the game, and they didn't. I think they didn't buy him out afterwards.
Oh, the bastards! I used to like that actually when the people were locked in, and I'm sure they probably did it just after he was locked in. They used to go to a cutaway of the guy being bored inside in the room he was locked in.
Yeah.
Yeah, just sitting there like Steve McQueen throwing a baseball against the wall.
Yeah. Throws dinner in through the door.
One thing we haven't really spoken about is quizzes on Irish TV, which of course we all would have grown up with in RT. They were never of the quality of the British ones because they didn't have the budget really, I suppose.
We have Where in the World.
Where in the World with Teresa Lowe. I mean, they could only afford to do one subject.
Yeah.
I suppose you had the lyrics board.
Oh my God, the lyrics board.
Yeah, Blackboard Jungle.
Which was something, I guess.
The thing about the lyrics board, and it was always seemed like, it was always like you turn on and be like, oh God. But apparently RT developed that. And they've sold it to like 20 countries. It never seemed that good an idea to me. It was like, what, 2 captains had a piano.
Yeah.
And they got a piece of music or something, was it?
They got like a phrase with a word, and they had to sing a word. They had to. It was kind of like Hangman, and there was like blank spaces.
Yeah.
And you'd put up a word, and you'd have to sing a song containing that word, and then the first person to guess the entire lyric got the prize.
Okay. That seems very complicated.
Yeah,
that does sound a bit.
Probably exactly how it worked.
No, I could be making that up as well. Also, Irish quiz shows, Blackboard Jungle. Hang on a second. I was on a quiz show on RTE.
Were you?
I'm saying this now.
This is a Fuzzy Concepts exclusive.
Yeah.
It's only coming back to me now. There was an Irish language quiz show for primary school students called Eureka, which was
I vaguely remember
by Dara something. No, not Dara O'Brien. It was Dara something. He was a guy from the Gaeltacht. He had curly hair.
Oh, nice guy. Yeah. The guy that used to do the games. Was it the things as well?
I can't remember his name. Dara something. Or was it Dara? No. It could have been. I can't remember his name. I'll have to Google it there because that will annoy me now if I don't find out his name. But
you know that we're going to be searching YouTube for that episode now.
It's not on there, and I had it on VHS, and obviously I lost it. I was the team captain.
Yeah.
And it was just like a couple of rounds of general knowledge, some kind of like, quirky banter stuff. And filmed in studio up in RT. We all got the bus up, and there was big bowls of sweets in front of us and stuff like that. And there was 2 schools. One was from a Gaeltacht in Galway, and they split the teams up, so it was like two from each team, so it wouldn't be competitive. Do you know what I mean? So I was sat next to was it Susan from my school, and then I was sat next to Sean Bonbrannock's daughter, Bree Bonbrannock. And I met Sean at an event a couple of years ago, and I went up to him and I was like, "Do you remember the quiz show Eureka? Like, I sat next to your daughter on that, like back in 19 whatever it was." And he went, "She's over there." I went over. We had a little Eureka reunion, but yeah. So I have quiz show experience. I've just remembered.
Did you win?
Yes, we did. I think
What prize did you get?
We got it's just really like baggy rugby top that had Eureka on it that I wore to death. I think I might have gotten a Walkman.
Nice.
I could be making this up. I have to find out what the presenter's name was now, because that will Tig McDonough was his name.
Tig McDonough.
Yeah, Tig McDonough. He was really, really nice, and it was just a really nice day, really nice experience, answering questions and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm trying to remember more about it, but I can't really.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's mad. You'll have to go to
So I'd love to be able to find the episode. It must be in the RT archive somewhere.
Surely.
If anybody knows anybody working in the RT archive, I'm saying it like I work in RTE. The RTE archive. Does anybody know Fearcraft working in the RTE archive? If anybody knows anybody working in the RTE archive, because I'm from Cork, send them my way, because I'd love to see it again. Like, because I would have been 11 or 12, I would have had a step with, like, the bowl hair.
Oh yes.
Probably a pair of curtains, like, it's parted in the middle.
Properly early 90s.
Yeah.
Oh man, we have we've got to find that. Would have been 94, 95, I'd say.
Must be there somewhere.
Gotta find that. But
has it?
We have to find that.
Quiz show veteran Ruairi O'Hagan speaking on the fuzzy concepts.
So that was Eureka. What was that? Was TG Carr around at that stage?
No, it wasn't. So it would have been on RT Ado back in the day.
Okay.
I think it was a Saturday evening, 5 o'clock-ish. Could be making that up as well. I must talk to my other friends from school and see what they can remember about that. I'd love to see if anyone has the video of it, because I think that'd be class.
That'd be amazing to see. So that, what else was there? So you had Where in the World, Blackboard Jungle, the lyrics board.
Who Fat was an RT quiz. That was kind of game showy, wasn't it?
What was that?
Gonzaga and Ray Darcy.
Oh yeah.
Am I making that up again?
I have vague memories of that. But it's very vague.
That was like early 2000s.
What was the sport one called?
As well. That Jimmy McGee,
George Hamilton.
And Jimmy McGee and George Hamilton, yeah.
What was that called?
What was that called? And Tracy Piggott was on it.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm trying to think there now, because I keep in my head, I keep thinking of Question of Sport, but I know that's the British version.
No, Know Your Sport.
Know Your Sport. There we go.
I had to Google it. That's not off the top of my head.
Know Your Sport, yeah.
The most Irish name for a quiz show ever. Know Your Sport.
Know Your Sport. The Krypton Factor, lads. That was very that was very futuristic in its day, wasn't it?
Yeah, run through a ridiculous kind of playground obstacle course and also land a plane in the same episode.
I was so obsessed with that. I think that's where my obsession with planes came from. I just so wanted to be able to have a go off that simulator.
Yeah. It was amazing. It was one of the most ridiculous shows, but brilliant at the same time. I'm surprised that
it was just,
when you've got this Ireland's Fittest Family and these kind of shows going on these days, I'm surprised something like that hasn't made a comeback, because it really should.
I'm sure it's budget these days. I'm sure they just don't want to go out on location to do these things.
And again, I'd say health and safety wasn't a main concern.
And health and safety. Yeah, they're right doing archery and all this mad stuff, and knife throwing and duels to the death on the Krypton Factor as well, I'm sure. Mental
puzzles, and then you'd land a plane, and then you get a head start on the obstacle course or something.
Of course, there was another one myself and Steve were looking at the other day, which was Strike It Lucky.
Strike It Lucky, do you remember that?
With Michael Barrymore.
You found a great picture, actually.
There was an awful picture of do you remember, Rory, they used to have the kind of the screens going across the stage?
No,
You'd answer a
And
question.
I've no memory of this now.
1, 2, or 3, and you
Yeah.
and if you got a hot spot, you lost your prize, or you could bank your prize.
So yeah, you have to press a big button on the thing in the Screamer Cup. And unfortunately, for one of them, the Michael Barrymore one of the prizes was swimming lessons.
Yeah.
So you say, I'll leave that, Michael. Cheers, thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
Like that one, yeah. That was a weird show too, because he was constantly running up and down steps throughout the whole.
Oh, it was great exercise for Michael Barrymore. He was running around the place because he'd have to run back to the 3 people who are answering the questions at one side of it.
Yeah.
And it was this huge stage
Yeah.
with steps. So you'd have to run up a load of steps to the top people.
Go across.
He must have been bayed out from it.
I know. But again, there was I think cash prizes and that, as well as the other prize, cash prize at the end of that. But yeah, some mad ones. There were some mad.
Stars in Your Eyes, does that count as a game show?
Well, it was super popular. Stars in Their Eyes.
Amazing how massive that was, actually. It really was like the X factor of the day, even though it was just basically tribute acts.
That's it. And we also had one we were talking about during the week was 3-2-1, which was the most bizarre game show.
I've watched like a few episodes of that, and I still really don't understand what's going on with it.
I don't know. Did they know what was going on in it? It was, I think they
had like
watch episodes online, and they're over an hour long, and that's with the commercials cut out. It was one.
Yeah, it was really long.
Because it was also like a variety show in the middle of it. Where they'd have like,
well, yeah, they had sketches and things with like third-rate actors.
Yes.
Yeah. And like cruise ship singers coming on doing a couple of singing numbers mid-rounds.
And then Ted Rogers used to do 3-2-1, 3-2-1 with his hand.
And then they had a robotic dustbin.
He'd have like a riddle that they'd have to answer. But the riddles made no sense whatsoever.
No.
And you're supposed to get like the answer out of it. If you got the wrong answer, Dusty Bin would come out, which was this giant puppet rubbish bin with a face on it.
It's really bizarre. I definitely recommend people look it up on YouTube, because the only way to explain through 3-2-1 is to watch an episode, because it's off the wall. It's absolutely off
crazy.
The wall. And
another favorite was Takeshi's Castle.
Great.
Yes. The
Classic.
best thing about Takeshi's Castle was Craig Charles and his commentary.
Yeah.
Because again,
he wasn't coked off his face in the commentary. Definitely not.
Yeah.
He seemed to be really enjoying himself. But the reboot was with, who did the commentary on the reboot? It was Jonathan Ross, wasn't it?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't capture the magic of.
It lost the charm. The best thing about the Craig Charles one was that the innuendo was just off the wall for like a show that was on 7 o'clock.
He also wasn't condescending. He wasn't kind of like laughing at the show. He was like enjoying the show, and he was like very like, he wasn't like winking at the audience, like, so to speak, from the voiceover booth. Like, he was like, this is good fun, like.
A lot of fun. And the episodes were cut together weirdly. They never seemed to follow the right pattern. They just
there was always just like,
they were from like 6 or 7 different shows. They just edited together and threw it. What was your favorite game from Takeshi's Castle? I think mine was Skipping Stones, because the amount of hoppers they took.
That was good.
I think it was that one, or Knockout, where they had to run through the doors.
That was great. Yeah.
And 2 of the doors were like just kind of curtains, and the other 3 doors were like solid wood, and the lads would be going in head first.
Yeah. And what was the one with the hands, when they were all dressed up as giant hands and they had to jump down on top of things?
Yeah, that's when like Takeshi would shout a number, and they'd all have to find the number and flop down on top of it.
Yeah.
And then there was also like, when they dress up in Velcro and swing off rope and have to try and stick onto a wall.
Oh, stick onto the wall, yeah.
I always thought I'd love to have a go of it.
Yeah.
I think probably the one that probably the most pain was the one where they had to cross the bridge with the lads shooting balls at them from a cannon. Yeah. And like the cannon, like there was serious speed off those balls, like. Which of course Craig Charles never missed the opportunity to say, and there's black balls banging off that person's backside.
There was also the maze game where like sumo wrestlers would be hiding around corners to grab people.
Yeah. Yeah. And then and weirdly, if they get caught, they get like all black stuff all over their face and thrown into water, which I never understood.
And then the end of it, they were driving like
Short, I
the
imagine.
slowest bumper cars in the world and shooting
Yeah.
lasers, and I could never figure out who won or how people won. Or
I've only ever seen someone win once, and nothing happened. They never got a prize or anything. It was just like, even Craig Charles was like, "Oh, he's won," and that was it. Credits.
Craig Charles had never seen it. He's the host of the show.
Yeah. Took everyone by surprise that somebody had actually won it. The prize they had originally was expired by now.
So there we go. There's our wonderful nostalgic memories of the many game shows that are out there.
Oh, there's a lot.
People should, I think people should message in with their own memories of game shows.
Absolutely.
I know that Owen Lynch threw in Going for Gold, all right.
Which was great, and how we'd refer to them by their countries as opposed to their names.
Yeah. And Kevin McCarthy was talking about Jim Bowen at one stage during the week as well.
Yeah. And
Good old Jim.
good old Jim, poor old Jim.
Everyone's favorite.
Yeah.
Ladies' favorite, Jim Bowen. So, Steve, do you have your horoscopes?
I have my horoscopes here for people to see, what the weekend has. Bring a little joy into people's lives. So we'll start with Aries. You love to be efficient and get things done quickly. However, sending the ransom note before the kidnapping takes place is not your best moment. On to Taurus. It's awful when you have to travel on a bus or plane without much legroom. So good news for you, the double amputation coming your way will ensure legroom is no longer a problem. Gemini, you're excited to see your constant nagging has worked on your roommate who seems to be finally taking an interest in cleaning, what with all the acid, bleach and plastic sheeting they've just purchased. Cancer, having failed once again to pay your zodiac bill, the stars are issuing you a final warning.
Well, that's never good.
Leo, the truth can be very hard to hear, especially after an accident leaves you deaf later this week. Virgo, a horribly misplaced comma puts your heart under great strain when you begin your new 18,000 calorie diet. Libra, life is all about balance. Sadly, you lose your balance, resulting in a double skull fracture.
These are very violent this week, Steve.
They're bad this week, yeah.
Aren't they?
Scorpio, they say a friend will help you move. A good friend will help you move a body. You learn this week you don't have any good friends. Sagittarius, you become a viral sensation this week when sitting around and being lazy becomes the new internet fad. Capricorn, this weekend is perfect for office romance. Sadly, it's your weekend off. More Aquarius, while you do enjoy jazz, you hate being referred to as the kind of person who listens to jazz. And finally, Pisces, it might be time to finally admit you can't drink your problems away. That or you're not drinking enough. Maybe double your intake, see how that goes.
I'll give that a go. I'm a Pisces.
So there you go. There's your horoscopes this week. Slightly violent.
So there we go.
That's the way they come in.
Thanks very much to Rory for coming on again.
Yeah.
It's been good to catch up, lads.
Yeah, and there's no danger of you dying in this one, thankfully.
No, not yet, anyway.
Not yet.
You kept the water away from your...
Yeah,
going
I'm
down the wrong
actually
way,
really
down your
thirsty. I was
windpipe.
afraid to drink any water in case I nearly died.
Just in case.
Not
Not from
that
one of
I
my
get
jokes,
any-
though, on legal advice.
Not that I get any sympathy from you guys, like.
Well, this doesn't.
I wonder how it would work
Oh,
on Zoom.
yeah.
That could go viral on Zoom, actually, if the Zoom, everything else in Zoom is going viral.
Man chokes to death on Zoom while friends laugh in his face. I'm going to tempt some water here now.
Won't die.
No, I'm good. I've learned how to drink water since we last podcasted.
Yeah.
So before we go, I have one last big question.
Yeah.
When are we walking half the length of the country again?
I'm up for it if you guys are.
I'm not sure how long I'd last.
No,
Yeah.
Or Steve. Steve, you just did
I did.
how many steps?
I did. I ended up with about 611,000 steps over 30 days. It was about 15 kilometers a day. A nice stroll.
Fair play.
But
Fair play
yeah,
is right.
I mean, at our age, that's pretty impressive. Like,
yeah. But there you go. It's only walking at the end of the day. It's not like I was, running a marathon. I'd last about a mile.
I know,
and
but
that.
I'm just thinking of like when we walked that time up to Oxygen. How many kilometers a day were we doing there? It was about 30, was it?
About 30, 25 to 30 probably.
About 20 miles ish, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then playing a game of ball afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I would get absolutely hammered with Steve's mum,
Yeah.
and be dying the next day, and being very quiet about it, not mentioning how much I was dying all day.
Yeah. You could walk it off.
You only used to really kind of perk up at around 2 o'clock.
Nearly there, but
In the mornings, it was head down. And just,
Head down, try not to vomit red wine back up. Good
but it was
times.
always good when you get your head down because you had oxygen.
tattoo.
You have oxygen kind of shaved in the back of your head, like so.
Yeah, we got that done the day. No, that was just the day before we.
Oh, that was the day before. Was it?
Yeah, Claire shaved oxygen in the back of my head, which resulted in people randomly slapping me in the back of the head all weekend, which was great crack. But we did see Muse that weekend, and the worst thing, the very fucking worst thing about that was David Bowie was supposed to play, and I was so fucking excited to see David Bowie.
Yeah.
Then he got sick, which is obviously unavoidable, but they replaced him with the fucking darkness.
Yeah, the darkness.
The darkness.
Even
they only had about 10 songs. I'm sure they played a couple of songs twice.
They played the thing called Love at the start, in the middle, and for the encore twice, and that was it.
And weren't the Cure playing that weekend? Surely they could have moved.
The Cure played. They were amazing. I'm trying to remember who else I saw that weekend, but
I do remember us having to go see the Hothouse Flowers because we had to meet
contractually obliged.
We were obliged to see them,
and they weren't arsed about meeting us, and we weren't.
They didn't care, and I missed Waiting Room, which were a great Cork band.
Yeah,
and everyone was there. Even Graham Lynch was there. I think even our old buddy from Rest.
Yeah. And you got thrown.
But we were obliged to see Hothouse Flowers.
Thrown out of a party then on the last night, Adam.
What was that?
You got thrown out of a party on the last night there.
Well, we were given these kind of half backstage passes, weren't we?
No, they weren't even backstage passes. They just got us into this kind of
area where
catering area that was just slightly away from everyone else.
Yeah.
But the best thing about that was that they had good toilets in there.
Yeah.
Which was always very good for a festival. And I remember I took a dump next to one of the members of Wu-Tang Clan. That's a good claim to fame.
That is quite the claim to fame.
No, the doors were locked, so I can't. I'm not saying that there was anything nefarious going on.
Yeah.
But which was better than the year after when I think it was a member of Reddish. It didn't have the same star power.
Same star power.
I love that.
But I did get thrown out. I did get thrown out of a party after the last band. I think after the Darkness or whatever. I decided to chance my arm and run back into the hospitality area for another couple of pints.
Yeah.
And I did. I managed to get a couple of pints out of it, and the bouncers were there, and they obviously selected girls from the front row to bring back with them to this area for drinks. And the problem with that was I started talking to one of the girls, and the bouncers got very odd about it. Obviously, because that was their selection. Yeah. And I remember the guy turned to me, put his arm around me, goes, "I think it's time that you leave." And I was just about to say, because I do have this kind of attitude, like fuck off. And I was just about to say, and then I remember I'm in a tent and there's about 20 odd bouncers in here.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I better just say nothing and just go away.
Wise choice. Have you ever thought about releasing a book? Famous Shit Than Me.
Well, for a while, I mean, I did try for a while to try and take a dump in as many famous places as possible. So I have done it in Toronto in the what's it called, Steve? The big tower.
Sky Dome.
Oh, the CN
Tower. Yeah. I've done the CN Tower. I've done it in where else have I done it now? I've done it Wembley Stadium. Yeah. So there we go. That's my book out next Christmas. So thanks again to Rory.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
We'll have you on again at some stage.
Yeah, we will talk about something different.
Good stuff.
Yeah. So all the best, lads.
Yep.
We'll see you in a couple of weeks.